morning from the sunny Copenhagen. Welcome to the webinar Enhancing Energy Efficiency in East Africa, hosted by Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency. This is the first of the total 5 e-training sessions that we're going to do. My name is Aris. I'm working as a program officer at the Copenhagen Center, and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. A couple of things before we move to the main content of the training session. The training session is going to be about 120 minutes long, almost 2 hours, including time for Q&A at the end. In case you cannot stay until the end, or you want to get back to our presentations, all the materials and the recording of the whole training session will be available online in a few days on the Copenhagen Center Knowledge Management System. And we have many other training materials and information there. Have a look. Now, before we start discussing about today's topic, I would like to inform our attendees that we comply with the General Data Protection Act, also known as GDPR. This means that your personal data, such as name, email, workplace, etc., is safely processed and stored, and all of your rights pursuant to the GDPR are respected. You have full access to the data being processed about you, and at any time, you can request that inaccurate data be deleted or rectified. For access or further information, please contact with the people that are presented here. Now, I would like to say a few things about the Copenhagen Center. The Center conducts research and advisory activities in the field of energy efficiency and serves as energy efficiency hub for the Sustainable Energy for All initiative. The Center has an established network of global, regional, and national partners with a broad range of stakeholders to help accelerate the implementation of energy efficiency activities. I would like to briefly introduce the speaker of today's webinar. Gabriela is the head of the business model and market strategy at the UNEP DTU partnership and also acting as the head of the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency. Jorge is working as a senior economist at the UNEP DTU partnership and has worked more than 80 years implementing projects in developing countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, and the Caribbean. Sanli is also a senior economist at the UNEP DTU partnership, and her work focuses on analyzing and designing enabling policies and programs for energy efficiency improvement and climate change mitigation. And finally, Raul is a senior expert at the UNEP DTU partnership. His role involves identifying short and long-term technical and financial potential of energy efficiency implementation measures. Now, I would like a little bit your help is to better understand you, our attendees. We'll prepare a poll with 4 questions, and we would appreciate if you could respond on those questions. So let's start with the first question. The first question is, are you aware of the term energy efficiency? And yeah, the option is to please select with yes or no. So I'll give you a few seconds, like 30 seconds to respond, and then we will continue to the next one. The results for the first poll question is that 95% also are aware about the term energy efficiency. So that's pretty impressive. Let's go to the next question. And the question is, do you work in energy efficiency related activities? The options that you have is yes, no, maybe. So again, I'll give like 30, 45 seconds in order for you to respond.
And the results are, as we can see, 63% responded yes, 18% responded no, and also almost the same 19% responded maybe. Let's go to the next one. The question is, according to you, what is the level of understanding on energy efficiency? The options that you have is little, or moderate, or expert. As always, I'll give you a few seconds to respond to this question.
Okay, and the result is the majority, 70%, have a moderate understanding, according to you, of energy efficiency, and 13% is little, and 18% expert. And the last question, energy efficiency and renewable energy, according to you, are same or different. So Yeah, please, if you can respond to that question in order to find out what do you think about those two terms. And again, I'm going to give you like 30, 35 seconds for everybody just to think a little bit and respond to the question. So the responses for that poll question is that 80% same and 92% is different. So we would like to thank you for your responses. That will give to the speakers a better understanding of what to focus and to find out what the knowledge of the audience about energy efficiency. Now I would like to mention a bit about the Q&A session. The Q&A session is going to be at the end of all the presentations. And I would like to inform you that you can send us your question during the presentations using the dedicated icon. And we will do our best to answer as many as we can at the end. Please do not forget to mention the name of the panelist that the question is for. And with that, I would like now to give the floor to my colleague, Jorge. Jorge, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Aris, for the comprehensive introduction. Good morning to everyone, and very welcome to this training on energy efficiency. As my colleague said, this is the first day of a 5 sessions training where 6 modules are included. You are seeing here the agenda of the whole training course. In the interest of time, I won't be going through the whole agenda, but rather focus on today's program. And as you can see, we have 4 presentations today. And also, as my colleague said, you will be able to address a question to the corresponding speaker at the end of the session. So I would very much encourage you to write down your questions and please address them at the end of the session, so to speak, at the very end. So as you can see, here is the whole agenda of the training, which hopefully you have already seen. Each day there will be an introduction of the issues to be covered during that session, and I will therefore go to the first speaker, my colleague Gabriela Pratavias, already introduced by my colleague. She will talk about the potential of energy efficiency in the global, regional, and local energy context. So I think we start with that, and I give the floor to my colleague Gabriela.
Hi, good morning, Jorge, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, and hopefully for the next 5 sessions. Just before coming into the substance of the training course, I would like to mention that we are organizing this training course with the very precious support of the East African Center on Renewable Energies and Energy Efficiency, and also the Association of Energy Professionals of East Africa. They were essential and very fundamental in the dissemination of this opportunity to be joining and getting together today and over the next 5 modules as well. So for that, I would like to give a big thanks to EACREEE and AEPA for the support that was provided. And since we are on this, I would like just to mention that we have with us Makay Okura, which is part of the direction of the management board of EACREEE. And I wonder whether he would like also to address the attendees today, since they are a valuable partner in this training today. So, Mr. Okura, would you like to give a few words at this point?
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are. It's a pleasure to join such a distinguished team of presenters on this training course. Gabriela has covered quite a wide range of the background to the training program, the reasons for that, and what it covers, and all the tools. So I don't have much to add, just to put my face and to put EACREEE's record that we do sincerely welcome the 130 plus participants that have joined us in this course. When we're organizing it, we were kind of apprehensive. Shall we master a good number? So we agreed that we will try our little best. So I just have three main points to make. One of them is to emphasize that EACREEE, that's the East African Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, is very keenly running programs on energy efficiency. EACREEE was established by the East African community with the support of UNIDO to enhance the process of adoption of renewable energy and energy efficiency in our region. So it's really a pleasure for us to join the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency to organize and run this training program. Ladies and gentlemen, more than half of the world's population live in cities. And by 2050, 2/3 of all humanity, about 6.5 million people, will be urban. So sustainable development cannot really be achieved without significantly working on cities. The rapid growth of cities, which is a result of rising population, increasing migration, and even increasing incomes, means that there is a boom in cities, especially in developing countries. Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, the quality of life and ensuring that high quality of life is a challenge that needs to be addressed. So as Africa continues to urbanize at a rapid rate, policymakers need to enact policies and implement programs that will encourage this city growth, but ensure that it is sustainable. Gabriela has already alluded to some of the targets that we have, and we believe that these targets need our concerted effort to address them. The third item I would like to inform participants about is that EACREEE has a number of programs related to energy efficiency, apart from the one that we have that we're running today as a training program. One such program is on cooling, efficiency in cooling. The other program is a project that we call energy efficient lighting and appliances that we are implementing in partnership with UNIDO and with the financial support of the Swedish cooperation agency, SIDA. And through that particular project proponents, such as municipalities represented in this training program and private sector, can access some of the same training material and knowledge that is provided in this course, but also technical and financial support for their energy efficiency projects. As I speak, there is a call for expression of interest on our website and on the UNIDO website for project proponents to give us concepts so that they can be considered for support in actually implementing energy efficiency projects. And we believe that municipalities could be a major beneficiary of this program. My colleagues are available as part of the participants on this course, and they will be able to provide further information. But once again, on behalf of EACREEE and on behalf of the organizing partners, it's really my pleasure to welcome the participants and to thank all the presenters for agreeing to be part of this program. I wish all the participants and the presenters a good training program. Thank you very much for your attention. Over to you, Frank.
Thank you very much, Dr. Guri, for your kind words, and also for the introduction or information you have just shared with us. I would like to say also that we very much enjoy collaborating with you, and hopefully this is something that will continue in the future, as well as with the Association of Energy Professionals Eastern Africa.
Great, so we are ready to go. So Aris has already explained about the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency. Basically, we are hosted in Denmark, but we actually work around the world in developing countries and emerging economies. Our focus is to help to deploy energy efficiency, and we have a lot of work ongoing in countries in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia. So we are pretty much all around the world working. But actually, this is the first time we are organizing a training course for East Africa. We had recently training course as well for Mozambique, which is probably the closest that we got to East Africa. Okay, our center, UNEP-DTU partnership, which is the hosting organization of the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency, is working on three main topical areas. I wouldn't spend too much on this, but basically we work around climate planning and policy, climate transparency and accountability, and business models and markets, which is a strategic area where the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency has most of the work related to. We work towards the Sustainable Development Goals that you see on the top of the screen. And we do a lot of research and analysis since we are also very much connected to the Technical University of Denmark. And as we are doing today, we do a lot of capacity building in our normal daily work. So this is a bit of a background and structure for you to know a bit more who we are. We are a collaborating center of a UN Environment Program. That's why you also see the UN Environment Program logo on the bottom of your screen. Regarding the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency, we have the main objective of accelerating energy efficiency programs in cities and countries. So as one of the objectives of today training is to address a variety of stakeholders that are active at city and municipality level. That's what the main focus is of today. Of course, we have energy efficiency professionals, and we've seen from the polls that there is an audience that is really knowledgeable about energy efficiency, but we are also trying to address and to disseminate the main concepts and opportunities that lie around energy efficiency in city and municipal level. So I hope you can all bear with us some subjects and topics that will be addressed today and over the next days. Some of them will seem a bit basic for some of you. Some of them will seem a bit too sophisticated. But it's good that you start following up on these different topics for the reasons I will explain a bit later on. So basically, our activities turn around activating the knowledge base. We develop a lot of reports, research, and analysis. We also work very much at local level with the municipalities, trying to support implementation of concrete projects, if possible, with private sector also involvement. And we do also a lot of communication material and activities around our work. So I will now start entering into more on the content. My presentation will be a bit more to set the scene and present the main basic knowledge and concepts for you to be able to follow on the next days and next presentations. So In 2015, the United Nations have organized a Sustainable Development Agenda with objectives for 2030. And for that, and within that framework, there were created 17 development goals, or sustainable development goals, as we call it. So they cover a variety of aspects, from poverty to peace, and covering many other topics that you can see on your screen. Today and over the next days, we will mostly address Sustainable Development Goal 7 around affordable and clean energy. Of course, some others are also relevant for the discussion over the next days, but the main focus is on SDG 7, as we call it. And why? Because within this Sustainable Development Goal 7, there are some concrete targets, some targets inclusively very, very relevant to the African context. The first one on universal access to modern energy services, which is trying to cover the aspect that all people should have access to modern energy, so basically to electricity, heating and cooling. And then a second target on the adoption of an increased adoption of renewable energy, so the supply chain of energy. And the third target on doubling the improvement of energy efficiency. And we will focus on this particular one from now. And then we have some other metrics around how to promote the access to research and technology, and expand and upgrade the energy services for developing countries. But this is just more around the metrics of this Sustainable Development Goal. So this is the first part of the context of our work. The second one is, of course, the Paris Climate Agreement. I suppose most of you are aware of this. So this is a global agreement that covers almost every country of the world, and with specific global goals around limiting temperature increases in the world, and for that, what are the covering the national efforts that need to be done in order to first mitigate and then adapt to climate change issues. And then there are several other concepts around cooperation regarding capacity building, something that we are doing today. Here, policy, coordination, mobilization of support, and then all the transparency frameworks, something that is a bit more technical and sophisticated, but it's how to report on achievements on mitigation and adaptation metrics. And a final one on global stocktake. So what have we achieved over the years? So this is these are the two guiding goals that our work focus on. So first, the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Climate Agreement. So why are we addressing energy efficiency today? It is from the International Energy Agency, it is known that in their sustainable development scenario, we need to achieve, in order to achieve the Paris Climate Agreement goals, we would need that every country addresses energy efficiency and have improvements of about 3% each year. And we are lagging far, far behind. And why is that? Because I mean, if we need to quickly comply with the Paris Climate Agreement, just energy efficiency could address about 40% of the emissions that are substantiated within the Paris Climate Agreement. So we are clearly lagging behind that. You can see on the screen. So basically, we need to be around 3% or 3.5%, and we are clearly below. And even 2020, from the first numbers that we got from the IEA, it's even less than 1% that was achieved during last year of improvement of energy efficiency. So this is really something that we need to start addressing if we want to comply with the Paris Agreement. So as I was mentioning, so basically the emission saving by 2030 could be coming, and the biggest chunk of it could be coming from energy efficiency. And there are a lot on renewables investment, probably more familiar to some of you, and reducing the use of coal and fossil fuel subsidy reforms, etc. So basically, it's what I want to show is the huge potential that energy efficiency has to address emission savings by 2030. So this is what you can see as the potential for in the different continents and areas of the world. So you can see that Africa still, although has a relatively smaller contribution from energy efficiency to address emissions, it really has still some quite big potential that could be about maybe a third of the contribution to the ways to address emissions. But yeah, for the sake of having everybody on the same page, and since we had this poll on what is renewable energy efficiency and renewable energy and energy efficiency, if they are the same or not, we need to perhaps give a step back and look into the basic and the fundamentals about energy efficiency. So on the energy supply side, you can see that there are several ways to address, provide energy to final consumers. And you can see on the conventional part of it, more related to the oil and gas industry, coal as well, and in some countries, nuclear. And then you have the non-conventional, which are basically the renewable energy forms. And there you can have the hydro energy, the solar energy, the wave energy, wind power as well, biomass, use of biomass, and geothermal energy. So these are the most relevant renewable energies that are available. So we are talking, until now, we are talking about the supply side. But energy efficiency is about the demand side. So we are addressing how can we use energy more efficiently. So how can consumers reduce the energy demands and at the same time providing the same service. So also from the IEA studies, so the International Energy Agency studies, we can see that there is a huge potential in every country on energy efficiency. So this is very much every country is rich on potential for energy efficiency. So we can have a lot of savings of energy that could altogether perhaps constitute something which can be considered by itself also a source of energy. So the IEA even calls it the first fuel that is available almost everywhere. So that's why on the bottom I am including here a label that is frequently used, at least in the European Union, regarding the energy efficiency of equipment. So these are the basics around energy and how energy is kind of organized. But when we are talking and addressing energy efficiency, we are talking about final energy. So we are talking about how can we do all the services that energy can provide in a manner that is more efficient. So how can we have lighting, hot water, heating or cooling, and do our transportation here and there with products or people, and mechanical engineer in mechanical transformation and use in factories. And so how can all these processes be more efficient? And how can the energy being used can be more efficient in all these final energy uses? Now, energy efficiency also has multiple benefits. As you can start guessing, Apart from energy savings, which is probably the principal focus, the main focus, it has a translation in reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, because if we are saving energy, we are saving emissions to reduce it or transform it in different forms of final energy that we need, be it heating or cooling or kinetic energy, etc. And for that, if we are using less energy, we have more energy security at local level or at country level. Then we can have several other impacts that are of economic nature, up to health and well-being, since, for example, if we are reducing emissions, we are creating better environment conditions at local level or at country level and even global level. And with that, we can also have an impact on poverty alleviation, creation of employment, and etc. So you can see there are a lot of co-benefits or multiple benefits associated with the deployment of energy efficiency. Now, what are the motivations for addressing energy efficiency? So normally what we can see on our daily work is that in some communities there is a big concern around pollution and health. So if we are using less energy to produce the same service, then we can reduce, of course, pollution, and we can have a better environment. Regarding cooling, for example, there are refrigerants which have a high global warming potential, and if we are producing cooling with better and more efficient equipment, we can reduce the need for refrigerants. So something that also could be a motivation to address energy efficiency. And then we have all the greenhouse gas reduction objectives. Some also are concerned about efficiency and innovation. Something probably interesting for the African context is the reduction of stress in electricity grids, because if we are reducing the demand, we are making available more energy that could be used on a later stage by some other consumers. And then some others as well refer as the energy efficiency to reduce dependence on fossil fuels. Now we have a huge opportunity post-COVID-19 to offer, in the context of this coming out from the pandemic and the recovery packages, we basically need to focus on improving health conditions, focus on job creation to address the crisis, and of course, focus also on economic development. And energy efficiency can respond to most of this, as we've been seeing. Basically, energy efficiency is labor intensive, so a lot of jobs could be created around this concept. The projects are relatively quick. It can be based on local supply chains and local competitiveness of companies, and make energy affordable and reduce emissions, something that we are globally looking for. Now, entering on how to implement energy efficiency. There are many building blocks to do it, from development of policy and legislation until information and capacity, something that we are doing here today. But still, there are some other intermediary building blocks that we should look into, like institutional configuration of the energy market, energy sector reform, making sure that energy prices are cost reflective so that subsidies are well addressed and don't motivate overuse of energy for which normally tend to come up on as wasted energy. Have specific energy efficiency regulation. This is one of the most important ones as well. And then financial and fiscal incentives, for sure, too, and enabling frameworks for something like energy service companies that we will address later on during the course. So these are some of the ideas that form the building blocks on how to implement energy efficiency. And since we are talking to mostly addressing today municipalities, how can they also be involved in this context? So first, there are two ways to implement energy efficiency. The top-down way, which is basically addressed by national governments or even from international context, is but also bottom-up. And here, on the bottom-up, municipalities can have a strong word to say on that. So, in order to prepare energy efficiency interventions, it's fundamental to know, first thing, how much energy and where are we consuming. So it's fundamental to have a good knowledge about the energy demand and how we are using it. And then with that, with the analysis of those numbers, and we need to create a strategy how to address and how to implement energy efficiency. And then from there, create a plan to implement, do the investment if it's needed, and finally, and most importantly, create a monitoring and verification system that would allow us to see if the plan and the strategy is moving in the same direction that we want, and if we need to correct or fine-tune some of the activities that are included in these strategies or planning. So these are the main basic structures to implement energy efficiency interventions. Just to give you an example of what we have been involved in, and as a top-down approach. Late last year, the Kenyan government has issued a Kenya National Energy Efficiency and Conservation Strategy, something that we've been also involved in supporting the Kenyan government to address. So it's good to have a regulatory and policy framework for energy efficiency, and this could be valid as well for the local level. So this is an example, and from there we are moving into an implementation plan that is hoped to be addressed during 2021. So this is just an example. When we move to local level, what are the gaps that we normally find? As you probably have guessed already from the things that I've been saying, we see a lot of lack of capacity at local level. So one of the reasons that we are organizing this training together with EACREEE and the APA today, the need to address the lack of data and see how we can collect the necessary data for addressing energy efficiency. So we need to know, as I said before, exactly how much we consume and where, and what can we do about it. And then what we can do about it has to translate sometimes or very often in investment. And for that, we need that bankable projects can be well designed and presented to financial institutions. So this is something also where we see a lot of lacking of capacity in the countries we are working on. And then sometimes also there is a need to bridge the gap between the regulatory level, so we mean the national level, and the ground level, so the local level. Sometimes there is even regulatory frameworks or legislation that is contradicting each other, and the lack of dialogue between the different levels of management of the territory. And then regarding long-term support to local authorities, this is something that needs continuous support. It's not something that you do one day and you go away and hope that everything is sorted out. In fact, from our experience, this is something that needs a continuous support and information, and even the population has to be well informed. What is going on, what is about energy efficiency, and why are we doing it and addressing it. And then also on energy efficiency, there is a standardization and transferability need so that we are sure that projects can replicate and upscale along the territory. So what can municipalities do at concrete level? A lot can be done on energy efficiency in buildings. Municipalities and local authorities have normally a lot of capacity to influence the processes and the construction and building codes around their territory. So this is one of the areas that could be addressed. And here we have some examples around the design, position, orientation of buildings, so that we are sure that they don't overheat in some seasons and are very, very cold in other seasons. So the good use of the solar energy could also be enhanced. And then we have the possibility of having the proper insulation of buildings. So we're creating the building codes that regulate how buildings could behave well, depending on the climate zones they are included in, and around heating and cooling and domestic hot water that needs to be provided. And some other ideas around natural ventilation strategies, maximizing natural sunlight, and then knowing that buildings are used by people, so there is some generation of internal heat, because depending on the use of the buildings, and all the mechanical installations to correct the energy and the temperatures and quality of air inside the building. So these are just some ideas. My colleagues will go into more details later on during the training course on this. So one of the most recent topics of attention nowadays is around cooling. So we see, especially in cities, that there is a huge demand for cooling, and we see air conditioners proliferating around cities, which apart from having some related issues around refrigerants, there is also a creation of heat zones because of the functioning of this equipment. But there are other solutions, and the tendencies look into nature-based kind of solutions that you can see on the picture on the right, that could address and try to cool down cities and hopefully reducing the heat islands associated with many cities. There is another more on the technology side around district cooling, which is some centralized production of cooling that can then be distributed by pipes to the different buildings. And this has several benefits because it reduces the need for electricity for cooling, helps shift the demands in valley hours, reduces refrigerant emissions, CO2 emissions, and the cooling for costs for final consumers. And of course, reduces the heat island effects in cities, and also has low demand on water. And this could be done using several heating sources or cooling sources. Just showing some pictures of Copenhagen system. In fact, in Copenhagen, although it's in the Nordic part of the world, it also needs cooling down. And in some buildings in Copenhagen are using seawater to cool them down. And these are some pictures of some possibilities that could be addressed. And the same could be used as a cooling source, some other low energy sources. Then something we need to think of is the integration of energy efficiency with renewables. We can see here on the pictures So both for producing hot water and electricity in buildings, so using the construction of buildings to integrate, for example, solar photovoltaic panels. So here we are addressing the supply side of energy that I was mentioning in the beginning, so that we can reduce the use of, for example, fossil fuels and more conventional energy sources in buildings. And also, for example, some ideas around solutions for getting access to natural sunlight in a better way. And then also in municipalities could have a big opportunity, and this is really a very low-hanging fruit. We've been involved in several projects around the world on street lighting. There's a huge potential to, and it's very easy projects and very quick and fast payback returns on improving the street lighting, the energy efficiency around street lighting. Apart from other co-benefits of improving security in city context as well. So this is something that we would like to encourage you through this training course also to have a look into and see how can this be addressed, not only by the technical part of it, but also by the business models and financial part of it. And then also to call your attention to transport and mobility. On the right side, you can see is a picture from Copenhagen where there are specific bridges and routes for the use of by cyclists. This was a decision by the municipality to invest in this type of infrastructure for several reasons. First, they were cheaper, and then they were also improving the health condition of the residents of the city. So this is just some of the issues that could be addressed at local level. Of course, we need to see the context. Copenhagen is not the same thing as Nairobi or any other capital city in East Africa, but just for you to collect a few ideas. And then also the solutions around car sharing and the use of new technologies like digitalization of services and mobility as a service. So for that we have this car sharing and also bicycle sharing, and taking a look also into last mile logistics in cities, so that we are sure that we don't have big trucks and big trailers coming into the city centers and disrupting the development of and mobility inside the cities. Another topic is around the water, energy, and food nexus. Probably something also that is very, not only in the Nordic part of the world, but also in the global south. Water is a scarce element, resource, and we need to address it. But we need also to be clear that when we are reducing the water demand, we are also reducing the energy demand, because water needs to be pumped, needs to be treated, so that we are able to consume it. And with that as well, on the food production, we need to see how we can improve the whole balance of this, we call the Nexus issues. And here, energy efficiency could be applied on motors, valves, and etc. that and pumps that could be improved in this type of treatment stations. My colleagues will address this topic later on. And also around metering, which is, we need to know how much, as I've been saying, how much we consume in order to address it. Just a little piece of good news. We actually are developing some tools for free to use. So please visit the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency website. We are introducing some tools there that you could freely use. So the first ones that are already there around street lighting and for the technical assessment and the financial assessment regarding business models, potential for implementing them. But also we are working around water supply systems, district cooling as well, and around buildings. And finally, we have there already a city guide for implementation of energy efficiency at local level. This is also free to download, and this is actually the manual or the guidebook that actually is supporting this whole training course. So you can see these are screenshots taken from our website regarding street lighting, energy efficiency calculator, and the financing tool. And this is the cover of the guidebook on energy efficiency in municipalities and on project bundling. And just one last thing I would like to mention before I close is around business models for energy efficiency, something that is going to be addressed as well during this later on in this training course. So there are several possibilities, and we would like to share some light on these possibilities and provide you by the end of the course with some concrete examples what have been done in other parts of the world. So we are going to have an example from Argentina, so that you can perhaps be inspired and also have some ideas that would apply in the East African context, just for inspiration. And with that, I close. Please take note of the address of our website and visit our knowledge management system. And I'm happy to provide any answers to any questions that you may have later on during the session. And with that, I pass back to Jorge, and probably Mr. Okuri is now in condition to have an address to the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gabriela, for your excellent presentation and for reviewing the huge potential and also benefits that the interventions in energy efficiency can give rise to in the various energy sectors of the economy. My conviction is that this very much applies as well to East African countries. So thank you very much, and I think you provided the necessary background and the context for the rest of the course. So we are a little bit, or I would say a bit behind schedule. So I won't talk too much, so we can move on. Going back to the agenda, I don't know whether you can see it now. Aris, could we share it? There, perfect. So next presentation to be given by my colleague Shali is on energy efficiency policies and measures, and she will discuss a little bit around the main types of energy efficiency policies and measures and some examples of their application, sort of regulations, standards, labeling, etc., etc. So, but she will go more into detail. So I leave you with her. Shali, please, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Jorge. Yeah, I will talk about the policies and measures for energy efficiency. The previous presentations by Gabriela and Dr. Okura has laid a great basis, background, context for energy efficiency. So some parts of my presentation they already covered. So I will try to be brief. First, in this presentation, I will talk about policies and measures for energy efficiency in different areas: homes and appliances, transport, businesses and industries, utilities, and the cross-cutting issues, especially about governance and finance. And in the end, I will go briefly about the tool that the World Bank RISE tool that can give some cross-country comparison about countries' policies, the measures in the area of energy efficiency. First, about the energy efficiency benefits. One thing is compared to other measures, renewable over energy efficiency is cheaper. That's why in the IA talk, they are saying energy efficiency is the first of you, the cleanest. The energy, whatever source, however clean you create, it still use some resources, space. But for energy efficiency, it's saving the energy. So you do avoid it's even cleaner. So that's the way energy is often cheap and clean. That's why we need to take action to unlock the huge opportunities to save money, protect the environment, and improve the comfort or quality of life in cities. So policies and measures for energy efficiency, there are different types. You can see this, generally you can see it's operational level for different sectors, different areas, the households, transport, businesses, and there's also cross-cutting, especially for utilities. Utilities play a special role because they are the providers. They can not only improve their own energy efficiency performance, reducing losses in the transmission and supply networks, they can also enable others to take action because they are the one really dealing with thousands of millions of users every day. They have the data and they have the business relations with those their customers. So they do play a special role in the process for many countries for energy efficiency implementation. First, the policies for households, especially homes and appliances. One is for buildings, as Gabriela already mentioned. A lot of potential you can do through insulation and make the homes better insulated. So you do not need so much heating and cooling to keep the indoor temperature comfort. Some measures is very cheap, like cooling roofs. That's a big difference of the indoor temperature in hot areas. If the roof color is dark or it's white, so it's changed a lot about how much heating you get into your roof, into your house. And as also the minimum energy performance standards, especially building codes for different appliances and for buildings, so that make sure you get the equipment efficient, get the building efficient. So in the daily operation and use, you do not need to use so much energy. And also certification. Energy efficiency certification is important because when you sell a home or apartment, then you can make the people, the owners, recover their investment in the building, in their insulation, so that in that way it is also a big important enabler, so that owners, building homeowners, they are motivated to invest in energy efficiency, so that when they sell the apartment, sell the house, they can recover their investment. And also standards and the labeling, that's also very important because a minimum energy performance standard, that's a way to avoid inefficient appliances or equipment coming to your market, being sold on the market. And another thing is voluntary. So like when you say minimum is D, you can also promote those even more energy efficient ones come into the market because you can save more energy. So the households, the users, they are motivated to buy more efficient ones. And also like endorsement. of the highest level of appliances. That's like the Energy Star. They do not really have a ABC. They just indicate that these are the most efficient ones on the market. And also lighting, because lighting is actually it's so widely used, and there are more technologies, especially today LEDs. It's cheap and it's a long use life, and it can save a lot of electricity, giving the sufficient lighting. So for building, you can see this manual: building codes, energy use. The policies is energy use reduction target, like passive buildings or net zero energy buildings, and how to enforce this. Like you do inspection when the building is finished the construction, do the energy performance inspection, or you through the grant public procurement, through government actions, and also the retrofit programs in many countries. That's like in Denmark, they do give some subsidies. If you do some energy efficiency retrofit, you can get some government payment to you for because of such actions, and benchmarking. So you know, like each building, they have a criteria to know what's their energy performance and this disclosure. So people, when they rent an apartment or they rent an office, they know what the energy performance is. And feedback programs and awards. Sometimes there's also like a green building, this kind of certificate, so that kind of awards to make sure that buildings are energy efficient. So these are at the different levels. You both need national level and sub-national level actions, as well as private sector engagement. Also, another thing is the appliances. As I said, there's a minimum energy performance standards, and the labeling that's also support voluntary. You can do even more than the minimum. And also supporting mechanisms. We have labels, incentives, sometimes also government subsidies or less taxes. And also municipal levels, it's needed to do the verification and the enforcement to make sure only those efficient ones are allowed, and those claimed they are efficient, they are actually efficient. So that's also the testing. And private sectors, a lot of promotion to make sure people know which producers, which brands, which models are energy efficient. And this energy is really energy efficient standard. The label is through the market, working through the market, make sure the market, the buyers, the suppliers, they know what's the energy performance of different equipment, different models, and give consumers the tool to compare and select the efficient products, and provide this manufacturer a tool to market their products, and so they can stand out those products with efficient, good efficiency performance are recognized and more welcomed by the market, and that can lead to huge net economic gains and emission reduction. And there are a lot of many countries have this energy efficiency standard labeling, and that's a really important way to get the households endorsement, because now in all countries, household appliances numbers are increasing, types are increasing. This is really make sure the energy efficiency equipment are endorsed or preferred by the consumers, that can save a lot of the grid, the generation investment. These are some examples. Different countries and regions, they are having these different labels for energy efficiency. And it's important in the labels to indicate not only ABC or 1, 2, 3 levels, what's the level, also indicate what's the cost, how much is the saving, how much electricity is used, how much the consumers can expect to save from this equipment compared with others. so that the consumers, when they are in the shops making the purchase, they can have a good understanding how much, what's the different equipment, the performance, the impact on their energy use bills. And also make sure the labels are visible and clearly have the enough information so that they can make sure like those have the right labels are actually indicate the actual performance, and the consumers can use this to make quick decisions. For transport, especially in cities, transport is a big issue, not only because it's the traffic jam or this can cause a lot of pollution and also stress people's daily life. So make sure the transport is the cars are clean, not so much noise. One is the fuel efficiency standards. Make sure what kind of car on the policy more supportive, so the efficient cars. So people are using this energy aware when they buy cars, how much is the fuel efficiency. And also in some countries, there's also the fuel policies, like prices. With the high taxes in many Nordic countries in Europe, they have a lot of tax on the fuel and gasoline, so that the consumers are aware they need to buy the more fuel efficient cars. At the municipal level, especially the parking fees is a very effective instrument to control the use of cars. And also the public improve the public transport networks. Generally, if you use public transport, it saves the space on road, and also you encourage non-motorized transport like bicycles, so that there are less traffic congestion and less emissions in the cities. And the private level is a lot of encourage, like also the proper maintenance, proper use of the cars by consumers. So that's a private level, also a lot of technology innovation to improve proper maintenance. So as Gabriela has already mentioned, transport is a big player in the many countries, also because it's also the main reason why countries spend a lot of money import gasoline, import diesel. So you can see that's a bigger problem for many countries of the spending large chunk of the hard currencies on oil import. So that's a fiscal policies like a tax on the user charges for transport when you buy the vehicle purchase tax or fuel tax. So make sure people buy the right kind of cars, and also with the standard labeling to say which cars are really, when you say the efficient cars or inefficient cars, how to compare that. And also the emissions. It's also in many countries, they have the developed countries, they have these vehicle emission standards. Vehicles have to go regularly to check and inspection to make sure they are properly maintained and have their emissions meeting the right standard, the national standards. And also eco driving and car sharing. That's also with the smartphones, a lot of car sharing or eco driving. This can also play an important role. So reduce the car ownership. So people do not have every family have a car, so that you reduce the congestion, make the cities more livable. And also in transport, especially this approach is avoid, shift and improve, avoid and reduce the need for travel. So this is especially from municipal planning, so that people do not have to travel long distance for their daily activities, shopping or school or going to hospital. So like urban planning to reduce the need for travel. Another is shift and maintain the public transport and the low energy modes, and also through improve the efficiency of vehicles, and also not from the vehicles and also from the usage. So if you have more people in a city in a car, it saves fuel in terms of passenger kilometer traveled. So for business sector, that's also many countries, when you start the energy efficiency policies or programs often start as industries and business, partially because industry and business often the biggest energy users in a country. So they are often targeted in the first hand when countries look at their energy use, who are the biggest customers. So one thing is energy management and capacity building to make sure doing also the energy audit to check what's the energy performance, how efficiently different enterprises use their energy, and encourage them to do energy management system so that they can regularly through their operation to make sure they are operate efficiently, avoid energy waste, and also minimum performance standards for industrial equipment, and also market-based approach, like white certificate emission trading. Enterprises are requested to participate, can participate, and if they see more than others, they can sell their actual savings. So also there's a voluntary agreement. Government can ask the large energy users to enter into voluntary government agreement with the governments to have regularly updated the targets of improving their energy efficiency. These are all important measures government can take to help enterprises or motivate industries and enterprises to improve their energy efficiency. And for utilities is the companies which supply the electricity, gas, water. So they are often the bigger energy users. So in the process, their grids, their water networks, we can have a lot of opportunity to save energy, improve the energy efficiency performance. We can also motivate others to do that, take actions. In Africa, like Ghana, they have this refrigerator program. When they help the energy refrigerators household to change to efficient refrigerators, we can not only have the consumers save money, actually can also save the electricity demand. So in that way, it's a win-win solution. And in some countries, they are also like a utility have this pay-as-you-go escrow. We will talk about this later. How a utility company can use this model to enable households to switch into efficient lighting and efficient appliances, while they include the actual cost, cover the cost through their energy bills. And policies for utilities is also one thing is the energy prices. Make sure the energy prices reflect the cost. So like instead of providing subsidies, so some fossil fuels, or give it for free to the energy users, you need to make sure the cost reflects the price reflects the cost, and also reform this price subsidy reform. Sometimes it's necessary to support the low-income groups, but the lower energy price is not a effective way to address that problem. Better you give those households some direct support, but make sure they also have to pay the energy bills. Energy efficiency, also the regulatory mandates, like require the utilities through their activity to reduce the energy use to enable others, the users, to do energy efficiency, and also some voluntary energy efficiency programs to reduce the transmission loss in many countries. That can be an issue because a huge, heavy percentage of the electricity generated, but never is because of technical loss, it's never being used, or it's because commercial loss, they never receive the payment for it. So this reduce the transmission network loss is also an important way for the energy efficiency actions. And also for, as you can see, this is the on-bill finance through ESCO network as utilities as ESCOs. They enable others to take to change the efficient appliances or the lighting, but they get the payment through the bills. So that way, the users get some saving, and the utilities are also able to recover their cost. Cost-cutting issues, policies is ways you have to have some national strategies, plans, or targets, so like all government agencies, enterprise have a clear expectation. So when enterprise make an investment, or government making some policies, budget allocation, they have a clear understanding where to use, how to do that. This energy efficiency into their considerations. Another is operational agencies. Energy efficiency, often like national government may be able to enact some policies, but the implementation, day-to-day check, and making the enforcement a lot rely on the local government. So make sure all the government at different levels, government different line ministries all work together to support energy efficiency action. So this kind of coordination, which when the policy is made, which government authority or public entity will be their roles and responsibilities to coordinate, make sure the policies are effectively implemented. And also the public procurement. In many countries and cities, government actually also a very important energy user. So make sure that its energy efficiency criteria is integrated in public procurement. So like supporting the energy efficiency products, there's a market for them. So and leading with examples, so the private sector, the household business can follow the example of government is really taking consideration of this into actions. And the data and statistics and evaluation. Energy efficiency is decision making, is performance tracking. It needs a lot of data, systematic data collection, so that you can evaluate where is the energy efficiency opportunities, how much is it, what's the cost and the benefits. That's also very important for this, such as systematic data collection and publishing of statistics, make it possible for reliable or fact-based decision making in investment by the business, by the government. Another thing is finance. In most countries, its energy efficiency, a large part is private finance, because it's in a way, many cases, energy efficiency is profitable for households, for the energy to take such action. But to leverage the private finance, that's need some public finance, like a government budget or grants to make sure some actions, enterprise can take the actions, capacity building or subsidies, and also the dedicated credit lines, so that banks giving such loans to energy user, to business who want to take such action. And also the public-private finance, public-private partnerships, including ESCO, to support technical and financially to do for enterprises and households to take such energy efficiency actions, and guarantees and risk sharing to make sure that if the banks gave us some loans, they have a way, they are not worried like some risks, especially this in the beginning, banks or enterprises lack the capacity to evaluate. And also fiscal policies, making tax, including tax incentives and rebates to make the policies more supportive for energy efficient products and investment. And also international climate finance and carbon finance. Currently in the GCF Global Green Climate Fund, that's also some energy efficiency support for energy efficiency projects. And especially in the and is a large part how to make sure that private households and the businesses invest in energy efficient finance to make sure through price, through different subsidies, through banks loans to motivate them to be able to take actions. So when countries need to be considered in energy efficiency policy making, you can see there are many different kinds of policies. Often these policies need to work together. You have to, when you have not only the policies, enact policies, but also the supportive actions to make sure have standards, have technology, guidelines to make sure these policies are effectively implemented. And this a lot is considered where to start from where is the current situation, what are the most profitable areas, how to identify where to take actions. And finally, I will talk about this RISE framework. This RISE is a regulatory indicators for sustainable energy. It's a World Bank indicator. The good thing is it's very straightforward. So you can have a quick view about how to compare different countries in the energy efficiency policies, renewable energy policies, energy access policies across different countries. And it's very straightforward. The score for each type is 0 to 100. And it's like they have a green top one side, middle is yellow, and right for the lowest one side. You have a very clear, straightforward framework to compare. For the energy efficiency, we have 13 indicators and 31 sub-indicators. You can read through. It's also cover the different energy efficiency policy and measures in different areas. So it's generally yes or no. If you have a yes, you get the score. So in that way, in the end, they can aggregate and get the country's different scores. So you can see I selected two examples of two countries, Kenya and Ethiopia. We have in energy efficiency in terms of from this RISE framework, Kenya is doing much better in terms of energy efficiency policies. But I have to say in the RISE framework is more a yes or no checklist. So it does not indicate whether those policies are effectively implemented or not. So that's we do not have a very internationally standardized way to compare how much effectiveness the country is implementing its policy. Thanks a lot. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Charlie, for your excellent presentation and for doing a review of the main types of energy efficiency policies and measures that are available, so to speak, that are in place that can be used. My colleague Gabriela mentioned this morning in her presentation the importance of having an energy plan. And making a strategic plan is a sort of a step-by-step conception or proposal developed to accomplish a specific objective or to meet a certain target. Maybe to reduce energy consumption or to reduce CO2 emissions or even increase the share of energy access to the people. In this context, it is very important that the process is conducted in a participatory approach where all relevant stakeholders are included, because it will be them that will either block your strategic plan or your measures or policies or support your policies, which of course will make it easier to implement any plan. Therefore, ownership from the point of view of the stakeholder is quite important. In the next two presentations. My colleagues Raul and Charlie will cover exactly this. We think, we believe, or we suggest to develop a strategic energy plan, maybe long-term or medium-term, to be developed in a 6-step process. And they will cover this, but also the benefits of developing such a strategic energy efficiency plan. We start with my colleague Rahul. So Rahul, please, the floor is yours.
So yeah, it was a great presentation, Shanti. Hello, I am Rahul Rajadusa. In this session, I will be briefly covering about energy efficiency in strategic planning, part 1. My colleague Shanli will then continue with part 2. Since this is a training program, the intention is by the end of the session, everyone gets to take along with them some useful knowledge for their future endeavors in the field of energy efficiency. And I understand again that there are participants from different professional backgrounds or based on the level of understanding and level of activities of the participants with energy efficiency. The content is actually accordingly designed for appropriately. So should it be too simple or too complex, please do write to us, email us for specific queries, feedback, so that we can it would help us in tailoring our upcoming presentations as per your needs. So this session would be mostly relatable for both individual applications and also relatively large scale municipal level projects. So we do see that governments around the world are using different terms and actions developed to achieve their goals. These are normally covered in a specific document composed of a vision, strategic plan, a roadmap, and an action plan. So there are different terminologies here. So it is important for us to first understand what these terms are and how they represent the different aspects before we dwell into the actual topic of energy efficiency strategic planning. So vision is a description of outcomes that an individual entity, that is a municipality or a government, will strive to achieve. For example, with respect to energy efficiency, it typically refers to the outlook on how much energy or carbon emissions you aim to reduce. Strategic plan, it's as Jorge mentioned just now, it's a document, to communicate your goals and how you want to achieve these goals. It basically creates some consensus among the stakeholders to secure resources. You can also have some relevant organizations held accountable for achieving certain goals. So coming to the next one, it's a roadmap. So basically these are defined for a longer duration, probably a decade or longer time frame, and includes detailed steps on achieving certain objectives. To address energy efficiency aspects, it is important that these roadmaps should have should make distinction among various sectors. It could be, coming to the next one is action plan. It basically addresses the schedule of actions, to be taken to achieve certain goals. This is quite many of you are aware of. Most of the governments and countries have their own climate action plans, to do what they want to. They have an idea, they have a set plan on what needs to be done with respect to climate actions, with respect to energy efficiency also. So strategic energy efficiency planning is necessary and beneficial for multiple reasons. It could be, create awareness amongst different stakeholders. It engages them in an inclusive manner, creates a common understanding. It can also be used for procuring long-term investments. So is it all some theory, or does this really work? Might be a question, because when we talk about document, is it really on papers, or is it does it have some importance? So if you actually look into, there are several results. You might find phenomenal results, I would say, where governments and municipalities, even individual entities, have prepared and followed the judicious energy efficiency strategic plan, and they have achieved quite good results. One of the examples I've given it for Ireland's public sector, they have developed a public sector strategy, and then they have implemented their requirements, and then they've got quite good results in terms of carbon dioxide reductions and in terms of energy savings, and to the tune of billions of euros. So yes, to initiate a strategic planning, each of these factors have their individual roles to play. The first one is the team. It's about who develops the strategy. Do we have the right mix of expertise in the team? One of the first-hand examples I can give experiences is one of the energy efficiency program for rural agricultural pump sets. It was quite designed by capable experts. It could be from energy, finance, economics, businesses, and all. Policy makers. They have designed some program, and by the time when it was time to implement this program, this strategy, it turned out to be not so successful one, because what lacked was they could not they did not take enough inputs from the farmers, because they are the ultimate end users for this particular program, or the ground level energy auditors or experts who actually know the ground realities. So this is something which you need to keep in mind when you define a strategy. Is important. The next is stakeholders. It's important you know which departments, which different bodies of the a company or a municipality or the state actually engage, or whom do you have to engage, whom when you execute this particular strategy, whom does it actually benefit or impact. Next one is expectations. This is quite a tricky area. You try your best to ensure that you understand the expectations of all the stakeholders in place. For example, you might be having certain set of divisions or departments who might be aiming to reduce some X percentage of energy consumption by end of this program or the project that they're planning. It could be about the technology suppliers or the vendors who might be expecting about possible rise in energy efficiency market business volumes from this particular program or a project. Even the governments would be having some certain expectations to portray in their achievements portfolio that this is something on a development activity what they have done in their in their time frame, in their time during their ruling time or something. So coming to the time frame, this is something which you want to prepare in the strategy plan. Basically, what is the time frame you want to complete? What is the time you want in completing this plan? What is the time that you would be taking to execute this plan? And for how long this particular program or a project that you have planned goes on. Budgeting, again, it is something which can make or break the project or the program. Obviously, one would not be definitely happy to realize halfway through the activity that you are short of funds, and are forced to either abandon or pushed to procure fresh funds, which is quite a hectic task again. So you need to be quite clear with the budgeting part. And the last one is the work plan. Basically, it is a document that is designed to streamline a project. It is used as a reference actually for the goal, objectives, tasks, and what are the team members who is responsible for each particular area. In short, it micromanages all the factors that we've been discussing till now in depth. So yes, as Jorge was mentioning, we would be going through a six-step approach. for implementing the strategic planning for energy efficiency actions. The first 1, 2, 3 is what I will be dealing now, and the next remaining 4, 5, 6 will be dealt in the next session by Shanley. So step 1, it's about mapping existing goals, policies, and measures. We do know that energy performance is an integrated aspect of operations and investment. It also, the energy efficiency implementation also depends on resource availability. So to make these energy strategies practical and operable, it is key to analyze the framework conditions that are already present in the system. If you look into the slide here, you can find analysis is required on mapping of existing goals, development strategies, plans and policies. Context setting may be at a national level or a municipal level or even at an individual level. So you might be having a question on this regard, basically like, okay, there are all these framework settings, there's different strategies or goals and targets out there, but why do we need this step 1? Why is mapping important? Well, this helps you to put your strategy in local context and align it with the existing policies. For example, I can say at a commercial building level, you would want to intend to invest some in having a diesel generator for catering your energy needs, but then you will have to get back to these policies or methodologies that are available in this context to see if your local municipal or state is generally allows you to install a diesel generator. Are there any regulations because owing to pollutions or owing to their plans on minimizing fossil fuel usage, etc. Did you look into the facts that they for taking advantage over available institutional setups to explore renewable energy or energy efficiency options? Another example could be, for how you plan your energy efficiency measures in your industry or building and gain double benefits. One is from saving that you achieve from your energy costs after implementation of these energy efficiency measures, and 2, it is about possibility of earning some tradable energy certificates through regulations that are promoting market mechanisms. You have countries these days which promote these kind of energy efficiency certificates to be traded, and it gives them a double benefit for the individual stakeholders. So it could also be that energy efficiency measures implementations that may not be feasible through your own funds can suddenly become attractive when applied with possible available government incentives. So yes, if you miss out on mapping these existing goals or policies and measures, you might probably missing out on possible outcomes or channels that through which your energy efficiency activities might have been feasible. Furthermore, we have to make sure that stakeholder mapping is also done parallelly through this step 1, basically looking into what are the different, defining what are the roles and responsibilities of the individual stakeholders, talking about the expertise again. Do we have a right expertise on the method of the way of collecting the data and drafting the strategy plan? And then we have already heard about this, taking into consensus of all the stakeholders and decision makers is important. So time to time consultation with them about the developments is important here. Moving to step 2, it is about identifying the type of energy sources. It's basically available as a primary step to take informed decisions with respect to sustainable energy use, competitive economics, long-term trouble-free maintenance and operations. So in order to the fact that the energy sources on which you depend on are dependent again in turn on all these factors. It could be due to these climatic conditions, the geography where you live in, or you're situated at, the market maturity, the available technologies. So all these factors impact on what kind of energy sources are available and how they are being used. For example, I have an energy mapping profile of a city representing the energy flows from primary energy to the final consumption. Yes, it looks like a bit a complicated web, but it is definitely encouraged to have some similar mapping in place. You know what are the sources that are and who are the users. It helps you assess how changes in a source or user end, any change in the source or in the user end, you will have an idea how it impacts each other and everyone that is in between. So yeah, if time permits, we can discuss this further in deep. But yeah, you can have a thought process on this and how it would impact, how the changes might be affecting based on your implementation of energy efficiency actions or renewable energy actions. So by now, we understand that energy mapping, as per this simple definition here, is a holistic approach with the end goal being to define and integrate energy solutions across as many end users as possible. So energy mapping is definitely applicable for at different scales. It can be at national, municipal, or even at a system level. So it gives you an understanding of the different types and quantum of energy that are being used for different end use applications based on the strategic steps with reference to planning, implementation, operations, and economics. So while you might be finding a level of mapping already available at a national level or at a municipal level, wherein the national governments or the local governments do have an understanding what are the different sources of energy that they are consuming and where is the demand going. The crux of the challenge actually lies in understanding this at a facility or a system level. So often we come across the facts that the industries or the buildings do not have proper records, or they don't understand how much of the energy is going to what components and all. So the following are the recommended steps in energy mapping approach, because we move to step 2 and it is important that we map the energy now. And these steps kind of overlap with the way energy audits are carried out. So yes, we will be dealing with that topic in the following sessions, subsequent sessions. So first thing is we in the first step, step A, that is we need to identify what are the high energy intensity facilities, basically through a gate-to-gate boundary approach. It can be done by an entity for their own building or an industry. It can also be used applicable for large-scale mapping, that is at a municipal level or a higher level, where basically you define the boundaries for each facility, assess their applicability to your activity, and then bundle them together for a larger program. For a given facility, a boundary is defined and fixed. It's a boundary is not physical; it is more of a virtual boundary. You define. We will look into how the boundary looks like in the next slide. So it is important that it gives an idea, record of all types of energy that is going into the boundary and what are the energy outputs or material outputs that are coming out of this boundary. It's basically a kind of a balance that you set up and analyze. And then in simpler terms, you eventually evaluate with the help of indicators. You calculate and define your indicators. For buildings, it could be something like energy performance index, that is kWh per meter square area on an annual basis. For water pumping stations, it could be the energy or the electricity kWh used per KL of water that is being dealt with. So something like that. And it is important that you define and fix a boundary. It is also important to set a baseline with respect to this. With respect to the energy consumption of the facility, it could be with respect to the technology and operational characteristics, the technology and policy regulations during the. This is something which you need to define as a baseline, so that this can be used to be compared after your implementation strategies of your energy efficiency programs or measures. So I was explaining here. So it's very simple, nothing complicated. You have this is an example for let's say a water pumping station, wherein you define a virtual boundary and then you understand or note down what are the different sources of energy and material or water in this case is going into the boundary and what is moving out of this boundary. Similarly, for a building level, it's more about let's say here you have different energy sources in terms of electricity, gas. You have hot water and normal municipal water supply, and what are the material and energy that is coming out. So one thing I wanted to I keep often highlighting this part is most of the entities do make a mistake here. So during the baseline or for the reference purpose, they try to integrate both most of the industries or the large building sectors which have a captive power plant in place. So they include both of these components within a boundary, and then after implementation of the energy efficiency measures, when they try to analyze, they compare these results with two different aspects. So they divide it and they consider these two components as individual boundaries, which is not to be encouraged. So once you have a boundary in place, it is time to develop a layout. Example here shows a macroscopic and a microscopic layout for a large multi-specialty hospital building, but you can adopt this for other other facilities also. So we first split the different systems into we split into different systems, that is, electrical systems, air conditioning systems, lighting, and all. And then further you go into micromanagement, microscopic layout, wherein you split what are the different components within a system. So you will need to list down these. Let's say for air conditioning systems, you have chillers, cooling towers, air handling units, and all. So the level of granularity is important here. When you actually try to look into a bigger picture, we need to also focus on the microscopic activities here. Mapping can also be done on a technology basis. If you look into here, the same components, let's say cooling towers, do you have natural draft or forced draft cooling towers? What are the different types of chillers? Do you have vapor compression system or a vapor absorption system? Because each of the technologies will be having their own defined sources of energy that needs to be consumed and applications to be used. And then questions you might have to ask again to yourself is what are the different types of energy inputs available and what are they used for? So these are the different types of energy inputs and where it is being used. What are the do you have suitable meters located at required points to measure, record, store, make necessary assessments? Is there a set of energy management systems in place for result-oriented actions? Are there any alternative efficient sources or users? These are things you need to focus on and think about. Further, it is also important, to categorize personnel accountable for managing these operations, processes, technology, and energy. You need to have someone in charge who consolidates and keeps all these data collected and for potential optimization and resource assessments for future incorporations and energy actions. So yes, moving on to step 3, we do come across several reports on websites and different mediums of sources where we see that there are several case studies that are or estimations that energy efficiency improvement potential or energy savings have been achieved at certain sectors or certain entities. But how is this generally done? That is where our answer lies in step 3, the benchmarks and standards. First, for any energy efficiency activities to be successful and for any energy saving potentials that needs to be estimated, benchmark figures or preset standards at a facility level or an equipment level are essential. These are intended as a reference for the end user and all other applicable stakeholders in relation to existing policies and technologies. So for a more detailed systematic approach for energy, for making the decisions in energy efficiency and management, we further have to get down to conducting energy audits. For an entity to improve their energy quality and optimize energy costs, energy audits is invariably important additional step beyond mapping. So energy savings estimated or achieved from different energy efficiency measures that come that are as an outcome of the energy audits or in comparison with the benchmark figures will give you an idea on the extent of energy cost reductions. So once you have this in place, you should be set and good, to go for the next phase, that is with respect to the energy cost reductions or energy cost savings that you have in place. You can further get into the next step where you will be dealing with the feasibility and in monetary terms, the different models of business and financial models and all to make it more feasible. So yes, that's my part. I will come back for other topics. Please do share your feedback and queries so that we can design our upcoming presentations as per your needs. You have the timetable with you. Thank you. I will now hand over the control to Shani.
Thanks a lot, Rahul, for the first 3 steps in strategic planning. I will continue to talk about the next 3 steps, the 6-step approach. The 3 steps I will talk about. Step 4 is prioritization. Select the areas or projects to be worked on to focus on. Step 5 is barrier analysis and solution formulation. And step 6 is MRV and the strategy formulation. So this whole cycle of strategy making. First is the prioritization. From Rahul's presentation, you can see there are many areas. Also, earlier presentations today, there's many areas when a country or a city think about taking action toward energy efficiency. So they need to collect the data from the first 3 steps to know how the energy is used. Then they need to select where to do. So this can be done, the prioritization, it can be done through cost and benefit analysis. So that what's the target of your strategy? Is it saving certain percentage of energy, or what's exactly the target? Then you from this data collected and make the prioritization. So for prioritization, you can do 2 ways. One is cost-benefit analysis. Another is multiple criteria analysis. Because one is cost-benefit is relatively almost all projects. When you do investment, you need to think about is what's the cost, what's the benefit, so that you have some ideas about the economic performance of such interventions or policies or investment. The multi-criteria is also relevant because in many cases, the energy efficiency, as we have talked before, have many multiple benefits. It's not only the cost saving, it can be also other things. So that's why you need to think about maybe multiple criteria analysis. For example, in many cities, air pollution can be an issue why they want to make the heating more efficient, or different issues or local priorities. So that's why it's sometimes beyond the cost saving. So that's why multiple criteria analysis is also relevant. So for cost benefit, it's just like normally people do for project investment decision making. So what are the costs and the benefits for the intervention or project? Then you calculate the return of the investment or the ARR, internal rate of return, or the net present value or payback period. So with these indicators, you can compare the different interventions, potential projects, so that you can see which is more financially effective, attractive options to do. So you can sequence the through cost benefits. You can see these are the steps. You do the establish the framework of the analysis, identify stakeholders, calculate the costs and benefits, and determine the discount rate. In some countries, often this is done through the normal interest rate, so through the bank's interest rate, then determine the present value. So you calculate the different potential opportunities. So also do a sensitivity analysis in the end. You compare the different opportunities in terms of economic returns. This is the multi-criteria analysis. It's like also you have the context, also the options. Then you have a group of stakeholders come together to say which criteria we need to use and how to do the scoring. It's not a calculation, it's more the scoring of the different options and giving weight. So you get an aggregated score for each option, so you can compare which one should be selected. In some cases, this cost benefit can be part of the multi-criteria analysis when economic benefits is part of the consideration. You can give a weight. Then also other consideration like environment, social considerations, so that you can combine the different aspects, so you make an overall judgment which are the most important or preferred areas to work on. So for the another step in the process, the barrier analysis, once you decided we want to work on this area, maybe the emission, like the transmission loss, then you decide, okay, what shall we do to do what are the barriers, why this does not happen? Or you say, okay, all household appliances shall be more efficient. So why do they not happen? What are the barriers? So start to look at the different barriers to analysis. What are the root analysis to find the actual causes behind the barriers? Then you develop what are the solutions to address these barriers. So like the categories of the different barriers, you can have economic or financial barriers. Sometimes it's the market structure, or it's legal or regulatory barriers. So you from these all different types of barriers, you identify for this area what is missing, what is preventing people take the action. So then you based on these barriers, you formulate or find the solutions. How to address effectively remove those barriers so that energy efficiency, purchase or use or investment can take place. So you have this through financial measures if people is really because of high cost, or it's for non-financial measures. You can also through this some kind of mandate or regulatory requirements, public procurement. So you do these non-financial measures to motivate people to take the action. So another step in the last step is MRV and strategy formulation. So one is MRV. Once you have these kind of plans, ideas what to do, you also need to think how to measure your progress, how to check if you are actually doing what they expect. So this MRV framework has to be in place, how you check, evaluate the progress, and when to consider whether any adjustment is needed or not. So we have this MRV framework in place so that to make sure the implementation can be actually effective. And then another step is strategy formulation. All the previous work are lots of background calculation or discussion. A strategy had to be a brief document so that you can communicate with this. Often such strategy is drafted by a small expert group Then it's reviewed and committed by stakeholders and validated by the government agencies. In the end, it's published. So also the strategy, because it's for the public, for many people to take action, therefore it's a bigger dissemination, make sure all the stakeholders are aware of it. It's also very important. So components, they are of different strategies. You need to often it's important leadership recognition, high level government officials recognize, or ministry recognize, and also the resource allocation for the implementation, and also legally binding targets to make sure there's some bindings that motivate to taking action, also like the financing and institutional structures to make sure when you request the relevant stakeholders or agencies to take action, they have the resources and have the power and mandate to take the action. And also the comprehensive efficiency programs to demonstrate these concrete actions to make the change the market, to make sure it's implementation effective, and also the monitoring verification. So have clear in the very beginning how this will be evaluated. So all stakeholders are moving in the same direction. There are also some examples, like if you are interested to look at some energy efficiency strategy, like one example is the UK one in 2012, and another one, as Gabriela mentioned, is last year, the one released by the Ministry of Energy of Kenya, their national strategy for energy efficiency and conservation. It's launched last year. Now they are working on an implementation plan for this strategy, and is expected to be released very soon. Typical course contents in the national strategy, you can see objectives, the background, and what is the strategy for different sectors, and the cross-cutting issues. Also some risk analysis. What are the risks you need to consider that may affect your implementation progress? And also the process. Sometimes it's also indicator which organizations or stakeholders are involved in the formulation and the MRV framework. What's the future review process, to some adjustment process. So this often like this, unlike it's the strategy is not a research report, it's a policy report. Often it needs to be clear what to do, how to do it, and clear targets, and need to be brief. So this is my last slide. The cycle of strategy making and implementation is like any other policy making. You have to determine what's the goal and determine how to reach the goal, and also have this through the implementation, then the regular review process to see, okay, are we hitting the targets? Are our solutions or plans effective or valid in the process? You make this circle to do the adjustment and regularly that energy efficiency improving is a long-term process. You keep improving in the process. So this we, as Gabriela already mentioned, we have a lot of tools, guidebooks on this topic. If you are interested, please have a look. And if you have some specific needs, some areas you think is worthwhile to cover, so you can also inform us. So we'll be glad to take into consideration in future work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Thank you very much, Raul, for your excellent and clear presentations about how to best develop an energy efficiency strategic plan and which are the important aspects like stakeholder participation that should be taken into consideration. Thanks a lot. Now we have come to the Q&A session, and because running that session requires a number of technical qualities that I totally lack, but that my colleague Aris owns, I leave the floor to Aris. and I will be with you again at the end once the Q&A session is done.
Thank you very much, Jorge, for your introduction and for the comments. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce the Q&A session, as Jorge mentioned. But before we do that, just two notes. The first one is that, as we mentioned in the beginning, the eTraining is being recorded, and the recording will be available in a few days after today, alongside with the presentations of the speakers. Please, so in order to access all that kind of information material, visit the web page that you see here on the slide. On the second point I would like to mention is many of you also mentioned about a certification or a certificate. We are going to provide a certificate of attendance, and the requirement that we have from your side is as long as you are going to attend at least 50% of the 5 e-training sessions. The tools that we use give us the capability to record the time that you spent on the training session, and after the end of the training session, I hope in less than a week, we will be able to process the data and generate the certificate of attendance. You will receive an official email with which we're going to attach the certificate of your attendance. Now, after those two remarks, I would like now to start with the Q&A session. And we received some interesting questions. And I would like to start with you, Gabriela. And the first question is about your presentation. And the question is about how do you effectively implement car sharing in Copenhagen? What methods do we use here in Copenhagen?
Thank you very much for the question. Highly relevant if we're looking into transport issues in city context. So basically, the first thing to do is to have the appropriate regulatory framework for that type of service to operate. But I mean, normally it's a private sector related type of a service, so that needs to be appropriately regulated and has a coverage at policy level, at city level, so within the competencies of the city. So this is the first main aspect to bear in mind. And then, of course, having the necessary tools to be able to deploy that service, and of course the car fleets, and then you can have several options around the way the booking of the cars is organized. Most of the cities use a mobile phone app to manage it. So then this has to be in place, and this has to be in place in a context where you have easy access to the web services on a mobile basis. So I would say probably these are the main three infrastructures that or credentials that the city has to have. First one on the policy and regulatory framework, and then having the necessary physical infrastructure, and which is the cars, and then the digital solution that accompanies it. So that's how it's being operated, both for cars, but also for other sharing vehicles more on the soft mode support. So for example, the use of shared bicycles and shared electric scooters as well. So these are the solutions that are being deployed in cities in Europe, not only in Copenhagen but around Europe. These are the most popular solutions that have been deployed, especially in context of pandemic, where there is some concern of people using public transportation, and some of them don't have or don't want to use the private car. So these are the solutions that are being deployed and which are getting a lot of traction in at least in the European context. I think that's all from my end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gabriela, for your response. The next question is for you, Raul. And the question is that on your presentation, there is a roadmap of a 10-year roadmap. And the person who's making the question is asking that a roadmap of 10 years is difficult to implement it because of government changes. And that government change may change after 5 years, and which also have an impact on setting up the strategies. And the question is, how should we deal with short-term roadmaps?
Hi. So this is quite a tricky question, I would say, because the answer lies with your question itself. The government changes every 5 years. So irrespective of how the strategies are there in place or the roadmaps are defined, it ultimately depends on what the individual government's focus is on a holistic level, on a long-term duration. So coming to the short-term durations, yes, it's business as usual. As we have discussed, you need to have plans in place, strategic plans in place. So you would not be defining it as a roadmap when you try to have it at a shorter durations. So yes, we would try to follow the steps what we have discussed just now to implement your energy efficiency plans.
Thank you very much, Rahul. The next question is, Shali, I think it's for you, but please correct me if I'm wrong. And the question is, with regard to MRV, efforts are underway to get national standards in place to guide on MRV. Is this the best approach? Should we have regional efforts instead? Example, the East African Community regional MRV requirements?
Thanks for the question. Yes, I know, like in some regions, they are talking a lot for policy, regional coordination among countries. That make a big sense, especially when it's regional for product standards and labeling, because that's make the common pool of market driven. So you give the market a push. So if you have common standards, it's much easier than each country have its different standards and the labeling. For the MRV part, I think it really depends on how much the policy similarity across situation similarity across the countries. If you have the high similarity, that's definitely a benefit. But if it's every country have a very different situation, different policy focuses, maybe that's difficult. But I agree that at a regional level, some capacity building and the support on this will be definitely necessary. But for the MRV framework, that really depends on the countries, which area and the similarity across the countries in their energy efficiency policies and actions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shali. The next question is, I think for you, Gabriela, and the question is, how do we effectively communicate to the community the benefits of energy efficiency?
Hi. Well, there are a lot of means that are available for sure, or the organization of specific events, and where at community level, for example, or at municipal level, it's important to explain to the constituents of the different areas of municipalities what are the changes, investments, or any other interventions that are being made around energy efficiency, why they are important, and what would be the benefits of making them. So these type of events result very well, or have been resulting very well in other places of the world. I assume that in the Eastern African context, they would also be valuable. And then you have all the communication around the normal channels on using social media, or even on the website of a specific municipality, or even at country level. So these are the main communication channels and explanation channels. And then if we go deeper into the regulations around products, Shanli has mentioned the effect of labeling of products. This is a very powerful message tool that it has resulted is one of the best policies and regulations that have come across along the years in both in the European Union and also in the North American context and Australian as well, is around the labeling of products. Shanley has shown a few labelings that are available in these different countries. Also, I think she showed the Japanese one. And these are very powerful tools because at the time of people purchasing equipment or even municipalities on their public procurement, they can easily assess what type of energy demand this purchase is going to be associated with. So there are several channels. Of course, this is not one-off type of communication that needs to be done. This has to be a continuous effort, and we have seen it in many places that people need to keep on receiving these messages and understanding why this is important. So, I mean, and then imagination is also a necessary tool. But yeah, these are the tools that have been applied elsewhere and where we think it's more or less being effective. But of course, this is a long effort. It's a marathon. It's not a very short run. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriela. And now that you're still online, there is another question, which I'm not sure maybe you can respond, or maybe also Jorge can add something. The question is, what is the key objective of this session and for future engagement?
Yeah, maybe I can kickstart and then Jorge can complement. So basically, what we intend to do with this training course is to provide the main highlights and guidelines to municipal officials and even energy experts on how to address energy efficiency in the municipal context. So we are going to cover topics from policy and planning, which are very relevant in the public sector perspective, because there are effective activities and actions that can be done at municipal level, up to more technology-related type of actions. So in the future sessions, we will address topics like heating and cooling of buildings. We are going to address lighting issues, and so on and so forth. And the idea today was to give you a glimpse of what are the main topics that need to be addressed, and starting with the policy, strategic development, and how to organize the work at municipal level. What are the policies that and strategies, and how to implement them. So this is basically the intention around this training, and please feel free to provide any feedback to us on some relevant topics or issues that you want us or you would like us to address during the sessions. I don't know if Jorge wants to complement with something else.
Thanks, Gabriela. I think you said it already. Apart from that, the only thing I can say is that this also serves a special purpose. Somebody asked, I think, Gabriela, the best way of raising awareness or communicating the benefits of energy efficiency. And my conviction is that a better understanding of the benefits of energy efficiency and an increased awareness among decision makers like you, stakeholders, representatives from municipalities from the region, and politicians, increasing this awareness and increasing the understanding of the benefits of energy efficiency could also be addressed by this training course.
Thank you very much, Gabriela and Jorge, for the question. The next question that I have is for you, Shanley, and the question goes by, how can we get some international support in developing a national energy efficiency strategy?
Yeah, I think this from our experience working with Kenya, we find out especially there's a lot of international agencies quite interested in this kind of work because the strategy really moving beyond from the intention to real action. I think this also when we started with Kenya Ministry of Energy working on this, it's uh, it's not so much in the beginning. It's only the Copenhagen Center we are working there on this topic. Once the draft is ready, it attracts a lot of attention from different donors. The World Bank, seeing with their next batch of loans to Kenya, they want to cover some of the actions, and also other like the AFDB and the EU, different organizations all see this as an opportunity really to support concrete actions. So therefore, I think also in other contexts, we do see like this such kind of a lot of international interest donors in support countries because this, as Gabriela's slides also show, this kind of policy and strategy is the starting point for national actions. It's the basis for national actions. Actually, a lot of international organizations are very much interested in supporting such actions, maybe just lack the linkage. People do not know this kind of opportunities. So definitely, I think also at Copenhagen Center, we are interested in supporting such kind of actions to make the strategy so that the country really start to look at the actions, concrete areas. So that's really important intervention. I think if you talk around, you check with different donors, international organizations, definitely you will get the support you need.
Thank you very much, Ali. And Gabriela, I have another question for you. I hope you will be able to respond because I know that we're going to have a training about district energy, but I'm just going to mention it. The question is, how practical is district cooling in tropical Africa, and has it been implemented in any of the countries in sub-Saharan Africa?
We actually are involved in several assessments of potential in different countries. I'm trying to remember if in sub-Saharan Africa we actually have any system in place. I remember that we have some work going on in Northern African context, so in Egypt and Morocco. In more kind of tropical weather related, so we actually have work ongoing in Southeast Asia as well. So these are the countries that come to mind at the moment. I'm not sure we have any African context or sub-Saharan African context type of development, but it would be interesting to possibly go back to colleagues that work on this topic and see where it stands in this context. But yeah, I mean, solutions are there. It's possible. It's just a question of finding the best technical opportunity and the economic feasibility to deploy it. So yeah, that's the solution. And I forgot to mention as well in South America, we also have projects ongoing in this context of more tropical related climate zones. So feel free to reach out and follow up in future. Just before I switch off my microphone, so we were asked to share, and I just shared it to the entire audience, a link to some opportunities around energy efficiency that exist at the moment. So if you could go to the chat box and see, I think you can have a look on some opportunities that lie around energy efficiency at the moment in the context of East Africa. Thank you, Aris.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. And we have one more question is for you, Raul. The question goes, how policies affect long-term commitments?
Policies, as we have been discussing through the entire session, are the fundamental aspects of defining what goes into the system. It could be at a national level or a municipal level. Basically, what goes into the system, the efficient appliances or equipment, or what are the different methodologies or operative strategies that you need to implement. For example, most of the countries, if you see, they define a specific policy that coming to the labeling part, that the specific set of equipment standards have to enter into the market. So that is a defined policy. So you cannot go beyond that or deny that. So in such a way, over a period of time, people would start or entities or corporations would start recognizing this, adopting this, and in a long way, if you see people, there would be a transformation, a change in which moving away from the inefficient market or practices to efficient practices. So yes, it definitely does not give you an overnight change, but over a period of time, it does give you a positive impact. Eventually, that is for individual users as well as on a national or a country level scale, because energy saved at one particular place can be used at another place for a development purpose, right? So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Raul. It's been more than 2 hours that we initiate the webinar, and it seems that we need to slowly start wrapping up. So, Jorge, before we close the training, would you like to say any final words?
Thank you, Aris. Yes, as you mentioned, we have come to an end, and that more or less 1 hour after the planned time. We have significantly exceeded the time allocated to this first day, but I tell you, we have still over 100 attendees, which in my view, and I think my colleague Aris will agree with me, is very impressive. That perhaps is a sign that you have enjoyed this first day, that the presentations have been interesting. We have covered, or actually my colleagues have covered the aspects that was planned to be covered, starting by reviewing potential of energy efficiency that different energy improvement options could give rise to. Then we move into the type of energy efficiency policies that are in place that can contribute to improve energy efficiency. And finally, in the last 2 sessions, my colleagues Charlie and Raul clearly presented the necessary steps that we are suggesting in order to develop an appropriate and well-structured and consistent energy efficiency strategic plan. I think we have achieved the purpose of today's first day. I tell you, I'll be honest, and we have been doing this type of webinars for some time now. But I tell you, I miss really the possibility of facing the audience, interacting with the audience, facing the audience. But I tell you, I think I've been able to picture more than 100 people, more than 100 participants committed and following our first day. So by that, I would like to thank all of you for attending this webinar. I would like to thank my colleagues for the excellent presentations, and I'm looking forward to see you again on Thursday when other aspects of this energy efficiency area will be covered. I think by that, Aris, I would like to close, and once again, I really hope everyone has enjoyed this interesting first day. Thank you, and goodbye to everyone.